Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're from. Welcome to Message to Movement, winning at being you. We are worldwide. I'm your host, Coach Rogers. This is a space where we have real conversations with people who are using their voice, their experiences, and their purpose to create impact, not just for themselves, but for others. Today, I'm excited to be joined by Heath Muhammad. We're going to talk about identity, growth, and what it actually looks like to win at being who you are without pretending or performing. If you're watching live, feel free to drop where you're watching from in the comments. Now, let's get into it. Heath Muhammad, LPC-S, is a licensed professional counselor, supervisor, speaker, and thought leader focused on men's mental health, leadership, and communication. As executive director of HM Counselor, he blends logic, emotional awareness, and personal agency to help men move beyond performance-based identity and into intentional living, reframing healing as strength and self-leadership as a learned skill.
Yeah.
Heath, I thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Man, thank you for having me on. I think it's going to be a dynamic conversation, a necessary conversation. I'm glad to be a part of it.
So Heath, my first question, for people who don't know you yet,
Mhm.
how do you usually explain what you help people with?
Well, being a therapist, if people don't know, I'm a therapist, counselor, LPC. I'm a supervisor. Supervisor is responsible for helping associates come into the field. But what I do as a therapist, I want people to have agency. I'm looking for people to develop a sense of agency so they can start to control and be accountable for their own lives. Too often there's this scapegoating going on, like we always see. There's this gaslighting going on. But what about you taking accountability for yourself? But in order to do that, you have to have some agency about yourself. And what does that mean? Getting the like healing from past wounds, healing from childhood wounds, like being able to understand that a lot of our actions are actually reactions and not responding. So once we can get people to start responding, I think that'll be a dope thing.
Mm. When you work with men, what do you notice they're carrying that rarely gets talked about?
Fear. A
Fear?
lot of a lot of anger is like the underneath of it all is fear. Anger is a secondary emotion. We always get mad when we are afraid. If we're going down I-35 and somebody pulls in front of us, we immediately get angry. But actually, it's fear. I was afraid that that person was going to hit me. But we don't like fear. Like we push that away, so anger, anger and childhood traumas that have been converted to bragging rights. Like we brag about the trauma. I had it bad. I didn't have food growing up. My mother was X. My father wasn't in my life. So this is what this produced, and I'm proud of that. We have to start being proud of our traumas and start to deal with them and start to realize that they're controlling us way more than we think they are.
And you talk about, you gave that example right there. And
Mhm.
for those of you that don't know, he does this men's mental health workshop here in Austin. I
Yeah.
attend, I love it. And one of the things he talks about often is how we, like the example you gave, how we are, we'll use our rough upbringing almost as a badge of honor.
Yeah.
And so tell us more about that. Why do you think we have, especially in our communities of color, why do we have that mentality?
Because I think that it makes it seemingly better instead of saying this is what we need to deal with. One of the major things also with that is we don't want to say that we were raised wrong. We don't want to say that our parents made mistakes. We don't want to say that, my father wasn't present and he was dealing with some things. We just want to say, you know what? If you didn't grow up like me, then you can't have these type of conversations about being hard. And like I said, in that last meeting, that I didn't grow up hard. I've always had my own room, never had to worry about, where my meal was coming from. Always had a dog, I always had a family dog. So I can't like relate to the hard growing up thing. However, it's still not a badge of honor. It's still not a thing where we should be celebrating this. But we celebrate it because we don't like, our parents. We don't want to say anything negative about our parents. We don't want to say that, man, my mother made a mistake in how she raised us, or she didn't give me the key ingredients to handle my emotions. And since I didn't have that, then I'm going to celebrate. Also, another thing with sports, we celebrate being in the trenches. We celebrate like the roughness of it. But what is not talked about is the after effect. We're not talking about, people still at age 50 still have to have their knees bandaged up. So we celebrate this rough life, and it's really nothing to celebrate. Nothing to celebrate at all.
So I have this question right here, and it relates to what you're saying. What happens to a man when that role he built his identity around, whether it be an athlete,
Yeah.
whether it be their career, starts to crack?
It's hard. It's hard because if that's your complete identity, you don't know what's next. Too often we see this a lot, like especially in the sports arena. Like they have been playing sports since they was 5 years old until 30, right? Unless they don't even get hurt. They just have to retire because they can't keep up. It's a hell of an identity switch that most people aren't prepared for. So we spend this whole time building up this image of ourselves that we're going to be these football players. Now, when are we going to start building up the thing where I'm going to be a human? I'm going to be this, and football will just be a part of my life. Or I'm no longer going to be a therapist. Like, because when people see me, they're like, "You're a therapist." Talk about, like, no, that's just something that I do. That's not what I am. So I think we have to start examining these identities that we create for ourselves, because once those things go away, then we're lost. So when I think about, and this is something for you to think about, when we start hitting the midlife crisis that people, talk about, especially men talk about the midlife crisis. What exactly is that? I believe, from my professional opinion, that's just an identity switch that we're trying to figure out. I feel like I put all my energy into this job and it didn't produce what I thought it was going to produce. So now I'm trying to switch that around, which is very uncomfortable. It's definitely doable if you want to do it, but definitely uncomfortable. So when we build up these ideas of who we are, it's rough to get rid of those, get away from those.
You said something. What I do versus who I am.
Yeah.
Tell us more about that.
How many people are identify with what they do? So especially me, when we meet each other, what is the first question that we ask? We don't ask them like, what do you do in your free time? We like, where do you work at? Who are you based? We create our identity on you based off of who you work, where you work. And it's allowed me to figure out if I'm going to respect you or not. So if you like, well, I pick up trash. Well, I don't respect you now. But if you tell me, oh, my job is a doctor, oh, that piques my interest. So now I respect you. But that is not where respect should be built in our jobs. Because we'll see that there are people that are in these jobs that are supposed to be respectable, just doing things that aren't respectable at all. So who are we as people? We have to have agency to decide that. Who I want to be as a man, since we're talking about men. Who do I want to be as a man? Do I want to just be considered this therapist? No, this is just something that I do. Yeah, it's broad and it makes me think of things a little bit different, but this is not my identity. And I don't want to be boxed into an identity. So we have to make sure that we are letting people know who we are, not what we do for a living.
So I guess with that, because I'll be honest, I'll be the first one to say, well, hey, I do such and such.
Mm-hmm.
what should we be saying, like when we answer, or if we're trying to answer, who am I?
What other things do you do? What other things do you find pleasure in? Maybe you like, or at night you have a telescope and your main thing passion is looking at the stars. So
Mhm.
I do that. I have these hobbies. I am a father. I am this. I am that. And even with that, like when we lead with, oh, I'm a husband, what if that ends? How much of our identity is tied up into that? When can we just be human beings that are doing this thing called life? And I
Mm.
think, again, with agency, that's what we need, because we are so caught up in these identities. And you know, from our men's meeting, we talk about what it means to be a man. By whose standards?
Hmm.
Are we even examining those standards when we say, oh, I am a man? What does that mean for you? So when we say, when I ask you, so what do you do for a living? And you're like, well, I'm coach. I'm a coach. You know, I tell people this and I do this. I have these speaking engagements. What does that mean for you, though? Is that where everything is for you? For me being a therapist, is that where everything is for me? So when I can't give therapy anymore, I can't do it anymore. Who am I? I'm still Heath. I'm still going to be doing those other things. So I think we just need to expand more and then let people know at the end what we do for a living. Because I don't want to be defined, and I don't want to only be respected because you think, oh, he's a therapist. Respect me for being other than that.
Good stuff right there. Food for thought. And so let's talk about emotions, because, us men, historically, we don't like to show our emotions, or
Yeah,
we like to cover them up.
yeah.
And so what emotions do men most often avoid, and what does that avoidance cost men?
Man, I think, besides fear, I think pain, and I'm not talking about physical pain, I'm talking about mental pain, anxiety. We do not like that. But the crazy thing about this is we talk about men not showing our emotions, but if you go to and look into the prison system, most of those men that are there have made an emotional decision. Most
Mm.
of the things that are happening in the world are based off of an emotional decision. It's not like people are just living on logic. Men aren't just these logical creatures that, well, I killed him because that was the logical thing to do. No, that's backed up by emotions. That man stepped on my shoe. I felt a certain way. He didn't apologize how I wanted him to apologize. Logically, I can be like, well, that's why I shot him. But all of that is emotion. So men are very emotional. We don't like to use that, but even in sports, I was told use your anger against the opponent. Anger is a secondary emotion. Even to the fact, like, we can't even celebrate our own birthday. That's how
Wow.
bad it is. We don't even allow ourselves to celebrate ourselves, because that's a sign of weakness in somebody's mind. So we have to do better. Like, we say that we are these emotionless creatures, but when did they leave? When, if emotions wasn't beneficial, they would have evolved out, but they haven't. But whenever we cry, we'd rather get mad. How many times have you heard somebody say, I cried until I was mad? Because they don't like the feeling of crying.
Never.
But it's okay. It's okay. Like, we are allowed the same emotions that everybody else has. And we actually move on our emotions more than we think that we do.
So sounds kind of like of course, men are emotional, of
Mhm.
course.
Yeah.
Um, Sounds like it might be a little bit of an issue of awareness, though,
Yeah.
sometimes. And
Yeah.
so, why does emotional awareness feel threatening, you think, to so many men, to acknowledge that, hey, maybe I am sad,
Mhm.
as opposed to I'm angry?
Because being sad is looked at as a weakness. Being angry is not. Being angry is definitely something that we have been told that is okay. And it's not okay. Like, the things that we get angry about are not the things that we should be angry about. Like, I shouldn't be angry that somebody pulled into my lane. It's okay for me to have some fear about that. to be like, oh man, I thought that I was going to have a wreck. There's nothing wrong with that. So I think that when we feel any other emotion besides anger, we feel like we attach that to being weak. And what does that even mean? Like, who is coming up with these things that says if you have an emotion, you're weak? If you cry because something bad happened, you're weak. Who is designing these ideas for us? And I think we have to re-examine that. But to go back to your question, prison system is designed for people that can't handle their emotions. So that is the thing. Like, if I'm not able to realize that, okay, I'm sad and let me think about this before I make a move, but now I just make a move, there are people that are making millions and millions of dollars off of us not being aware of our emotions. So our emotions, not being aware of your emotions can lead you to being killed or being in the prison system or losing your family. So we have to definitely be more aware of our emotions because it's detrimental. Some of our children don't even deal with us because we didn't know how to handle their emotions. So if a child comes to you and be like, Dad, I want a hug, and he's a male child, and you're like, nah, men don't hug. You're messing up your child. But we do hug. We even slap each other on the butt. In sports, all of that shit go out the window. I saw how many people do you see cry when they win the championship? Michael Jordan cried, LeBron cried, um, Odell Beckham, he was crying when he won the championship because all of that comes out because you've been holding all of that in to that one point. But they even made fun of Odell Beckham for crying for winning a championship. Crazy. So
Caleb Williams,
you shouldn't do any of these things, which is absolutely insane. Why shouldn't
a guy like Caleb Williams, who was crying, went to his mom in the stands.
Yeah, they made fun of this man. For what? Because we have this thing that's not what you're supposed to do. Now, would they have made fun of him if he would have threw the Gatorade thing, knocked over the table? No, they would have said he was passionate. But him shedding tears is the thing, that's where we stop at. So we have to definitely get over that, man, because it's not beneficial for us. It's not even beneficial for our families. And we're saying that we're leading families. How are we leading families and we're not even showing our families emotions? How are you leading them? By logic? Just strictly logic? That just doesn't make sense. And it's not true. So we have to do better. If we love our family, if we want to be the leaders in our family, if that's how we're setting these things up, then emotions has to be a part of it. Because we need to teach our children how to handle their emotions. Not stop their emotions, but how to handle their emotions and not react everything on emotions. Because again, prison is full of people that reacted on their emotions.
So how do you help men get in touch with that, with their emotions, their true emotions, after a lifetime of basically, like you love to say, wearing a mask?
Yeah. And that's interesting because that's what I start to say. Slowly start to lift up that mask. Slowly start to have emotions. Slowly start to allow yourself. Because what happens is people aren't not getting rid of the emotions. They still have them. They just stop them. Like if I'm feeling bad about something, no, I just think about something else. I can tell you this. There's a lot of people that drink their emotions. There are a lot of people that smoke their emotions. There's a lot of people that use harsh drugs to not have emotions because it's very, very uncomfortable. But I think we should start getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, especially if it's going to be detrimental, to our lifestyles. Our body is going to keep the score. You can keep these emotions like at bay and inside, but that's why we're having heart attacks. That's why we have these heart diseases. That's why we're having all these things, because we're not allowing ourselves to let off some of that steam. So we're going to pop. Is it worth it, though? Is it worth it being so manly and macho that you can't even give your male child a hug? Is it so worth it being manly and macho where when your parent passed away, you standing there stone faced like it don't affect you? No, it does. So you just have to start slowly allowing yourself to do it. And honestly, people that do it find that it's okay. And then they'll start to separate themselves from the people that are like, well, no, you shouldn't cry. You shouldn't do that. So you just have to start slowly allowing yourself to feel the emotions that you're feeling without trying to smoke them away, drink them away, crown and coke them away, Hennessy them away. Sit with your emotions, man. It's okay. It's really okay. It'll be okay.
So what does that process look like though? How do you help men sit with that feeling of not being comfortable expressing emotions in, I guess, that way without them spiraling or shutting down or being like, man, this ain't it?
Yeah.
How do you help them?
I think one of the things that I have used to help them, like in my therapy practice and in the men's mental health thing, it's about making sure that making sure that the place that they're doing it in is safe, is a place that will allow emotions, all of them, even if it comes out as angry at some point, just to allow it and not put up any walls with it and be like, no, you're not supposed to cry in here. Like I allow all of it. So they can feel like, okay, there is another man that's allowing this. How many other men can allow this? And I think that's the beauty of what the men in me has created, those safe spaces where we can have these conversations and be like, man, I don't feel good. I'm not at 100%. Man, so you're anxious for the same thing? Man, we're more alike than we are with the emotion thing. I want to let this out, but I've been told that I'm supposed to keep it in. So when we start creating those safe spaces, which something that, men and me and the mental health thing and me and my personal therapy thing, I create the safe space for them to have those emotions. That's important because that is not been created for a lot of us. But from what we have done and when I get the feedback, most men love it. I hadn't got one man say, nah, I'm not coming there. That's weak. I'm not coming there. That's for cowards. Most people will be like, man, let me know. Let me know when you're going to have another one. Now, that doesn't mean that they're going to come to the next one, but they're listening to it and they're realizing that it is okay for me to have these emotions that I have been having for all my life and I've been putting in my back pocket. So allowing that safe space for it to happen.
And I'm glad you said that because that's something that I've encountered in what I do. I've been actually working on a program for fathers in the space that I work in.
Yeah.
And one of the questions I got was, do you think the guys will come to it? I'm like, hell yeah, they'll come.
They'll come.
I'm just like, they just don't have a place to go to it right now.
Right.
But I really do think that they would go. And like you said, men want a safe space. They just don't have it.
They don't have
it. But you see when they do have a place that a lot of times it's not safe, but it does give them a voice, i.e. games and fraternities and things like that.
Yeah.
Teams, they gravitate toward it. So men actually do want to be able to express themselves and be part of something. But a lot of times in this space, they just don't have the opportunity.
They don't have the opportunity, and they also don't have the opportunity to allow themselves to just sit and not be worrying about producing something. Because that's the thing that men have in our heads, that we're always supposed to be producing, even to a point where we're supposed to be producing to exhaustion. Even sleep have became a thing that men aren't supposed to do. Like you have had many of the self-help people, like what's his name?
Eric Thomas.
What's Steve?
Eric Thomas, E.T.
Steve Harvey, Derek Thomas, all of them cats. All you need is 4 hours of sleep. Like I like refilling myself. It's not manly anymore. Like back in the day, Nas had a verse that said that sleep is the cousin of death. So people was like, well, sleeping is bad. Or I'll sleep when I die. Yeah, that's true. But you're going to die sooner if you don't get some sleep, if you don't allow yourself to heal. And sleep is healing. Sleep is very much healing. And to go back to having that safe space, when you're in our meetings, like we'll have a new person coming in and they're very apprehensive. They're like putting their toe in the thing, and then in 30 minutes they're talking because they're like, man, this has been built up. I don't have anybody to talk to. And sometimes we do, we just don't do it. So it's a beautiful thing, man, to get people to see that moment where they like when they're uptight like this and then their shoulders go down. It's a beautiful thing to see. It's beautiful.
And I know for somebody like me, I'm frequently in front of people, and so I get a lot of I guess it's a relief to
Yeah.
be able to walk into a space and not have to leave the place,
Yeah.
to
And don't
actually
have to
be,
produce.
yeah, I don't have to produce. I can
Yeah.
just be poured into,
Yeah.
so
And
I
that's good,
really,
man. And that's why what we do is so powerful, because we need that. We need spaces to just sit and think. It doesn't have to be like we have that when it comes to like, sports. We'll go and we can vibe off of that. But when it comes to mental health, there's not a lot of spaces where we can just sit and be and not have to worry about entertaining our friends or trying to produce the next thing. We can just be. And once those spaces are created, more of those spaces are created, it'll be definitely beneficial. And the women in our lives will see the benefit of it, because they're not just trying to pull out information from their husbands, from their partners anymore. Their partners are starting to communicate more. And that's a beautiful thing.
and so, us men, a lot of times we have a lot of responsibility,
Mhm.
and with that responsibility, we have expectations,
Yeah.
and if we don't, I guess, quote unquote, live up to those expectations,
Hmm.
we sometimes experience shame.
Yeah.
And so, is that something that you come across or see often when you're dealing with men? The idea of them having shame, and how do you help them with that?
Well, I mean, again, I think it's about examining where these expectations are coming from. Are they even a reality of things? Perfect example. I've been doing some studying about because now there's this thing that a man needs to make, six figures, and his wife is not supposed to work, and all of these things, right? And unless you're producing that, you're not a man. Where in history, in American history, has that been a reality for black men, where their black women have never had to work? That's not even a thing. In slavery, they was out picking cotton. In Jim Crow, they was cleaning houses. In the 90s, they was doing most of the work because we was going to jail. So when have we ever had that expectation that women don't supposed to help? Like, they have always done it. So now we have this mindset that our grandfathers worked so hard that their grandmothers didn't work. Like, you didn't see them when they was 20. And if that did happen, because I've asked around and people was like, "No, my grandmother did this and she didn't have to work." It was abuse. It was abuse there. It was a lot of abuse there. So when I hear people saying, "I want these relationships like my grandparents had," no, you don't. It was abusive. You have other, like, your siblings, your parents' siblings had other siblings outside the thing that you met once your grandfather passed away. So it wasn't a beautiful thing like we think it is. So we have all these expectations that were given to us by who? Like, who's responsible for all these expectations? And again, how do we use that and be like, well, that's what it means to be a man? It's subjective. What it means to be a man for you is totally different what it means to be a man for me. And is that okay? Yeah, it's okay. It's very much okay. So again, agency needs to be developed so we can start saying, let me examine what it means to be a man. And once we start doing that and start realizing that a lot of this stuff is coming out of left field and not really tied into anything real, then that's when the shame can start to disappear. Why would I feel shame at 28 because I don't have a house? Why should I feel shame at 40 if I'm not married? Why should I even feel shame in those things? Now, there are things that I should feel shame in, like if I've done something wrong to somebody, but not meeting society's milestones that was given to us from people that probably never hit those milestones. We shouldn't have shame for that. We shouldn't have shame for that. Living in America is difficult. Everybody is not making 100,000. The majority of Americans are making 50 something $1,000. Where are we getting this? You only a man if you make 100,000. Where is that coming from? Somebody is just saying it. Now, I want to say this. Back in when they was giving out GI bills and stuff like that, people was able to get houses and their wives wasn't able to didn't have to work during that time. But we wasn't getting GI bills. They denied us those same GI bills. And
Did not
also
know.
during that time, they was looking at the military as those are men. Those are the people that you want to be like. So they didn't, their wives wasn't working. But the people that was pointing to them, wives were working. And they was telling their children, if you want to be a real man, you need to be like them. But they had a hand up because they had the GI Bill. And we didn't get the GI Bill. So again, who's creating these standards that we're supposed to live up to?
So
Not us.
let me ask you this. I was reading this one book. I can't remember the title of it, but it's by Scott Galloway. Not sure if you're familiar with him. He was interviewed by Oprah, and he has a lot of thoughts on why men, especially young men, are struggling nowadays. And one of the things he alluded to was that a man needs to have a level of excellence about them. You know, they need to be really good or be shooting to be really good at something. And so I know you're talking about who determines expectations and that sort of thing, but I'd like to get your thoughts on that.
I think that that should be a thing. However, I don't think that if a person doesn't have that, he's not a man. Again, if I'm shooting to be the best therapist, that doesn't even make me a man. That just make me like wanting to be the best therapist. So we tie our manhood to these things, like we was talking about in the beginning. Our identity or our manhood is tied into these identities of these things that were given to us. So I don't necessarily disagree with him. I think it just needs to be broken down more and be like, well, that doesn't make you a man just because you're this. Because look at the political thing that we're in now. And Epstein, bunch of money. Bunch of money. Anybody telling their children to be like him? No. No. Nobody's telling their children you need to be like that because he has a bunch of money.
Yeah, let me say though, in the book, he definitely talks about a commitment to excellence. However, he is I'm not going to say however, but he also talks about true masculinity being a protector as opposed to being aggressive and that sort of thing. And so it's not just rooted in, you know, in making a lot of money as a commitment to excellence. That excellence encompasses positive masculinity as opposed to toxic masculinity, being a protector, serving your community, things of that nature.
I would agree with all of that. I also would add in that when we are protecting and providing, it has to be emotionally as well. It can't just be a physical protection. It can't just be a physical like environment. Like it has to have the environment where people can have emotions. And I think that's what's missing. We're hitting those, you know, provider. Like every, you know, man feels like he can like fight for his family. Like that's a thing. We can make these, you know, spaces for our family to live at. Bro, we making our family safe to have emotions. And I don't think that we're doing a good job at that. Now, I look at people sideways when they talk about what children need to do. Because perfect example. I walk past he's 20 now, but he was like 14 or 15 at this point. I walked past his room and I was like, man, this dude is lazy. All he does is play video games. That's all he does. Now, that's not all he does. He's going to school and all these things, right? But I was trying to compare him to what we used to do because we used to go outside. Now, I was also like, all you do is play video games. But you know what I had to realize? I bought that video game for him because I didn't want him outside dealing with the things that was out there, like in the 90s, with the drugs and stuff like that. So we protect our children from those things and then get mad at them because they operate within that protection. So I can't call my son soft because all he does is play video games, and the only way he can get hard is by going out in the streets. I don't want him in the streets. I want him to be safe on what my idea of safe is. So I made sure that he was in the house. So when I think about what especially, the generation that's having these children, take some accountability for that. And also understand that your trauma is not beneficial. So let them grow up without the trauma. Let them grow up with being sort of naive about what's going on in the streets of South Central LA. Let them be okay with not having to figure that out. If they don't live there, like if you're living in Austin, there is no real ghettos in Austin. So do we take them to St. Louis so they can be hard? No, that's ridiculous. Let our children grow up without the traumas that we grew up with. It doesn't make them weak. It makes them probably more smarter than us. So I just look at that side because we make our children like they're weak and all of this, but we did it. Like we did it. Every generation after is going to be considered weaker than the generation before it, because the generation before it produced that. Let it be. My son, now that same son is in his junior year at A&M. He's doing well. He still play video games, and he still.
I always say kids will figure it out.
They always do.
That's what I would, when I was teaching, I would hear teachers complain, oh, this kid, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you know what? They will figure out what they need to do to make it in life. And so, yeah, you see them 10 years later, 15 years later on social media. They got a family. They're holding down a job. They're just fine.
Yeah. Just like us. When I grew up, listening to NWA, Eazy, Ice Cube, and all of them, my parents hated that. I want to make sure that you don't turn out to be a thug. I don't want you to be, out there selling dope. That was never on my mind to sell dope. It was never. Matter of fact, I told the story in the group that people were threatened. Like people couldn't ask me to sell dope because people in the streets would threaten the drug dealers. So let our children be. They'll be okay. Yeah, they'll be softer than us. But again, that goes back to us bragging on the trauma that we had. We're not better than them because we had more trauma. That just doesn't make sense. And I know that you see a lot of that, not a lot of trauma in the children, but a lot of children that are just okay, that are being kept away from certain traumas. And I'm telling you, they'll be okay. They don't need to go through what we went through in order to be okay. They'll be okay for their environment.
So what does healthy emotional leadership look like for a parent, for a dad inside the home?
In my opinion, healthy emotion leadership looks like allowing and having those safe spaces where their children can actually have real conversations with you. Not just the conversations that the father and mother are comfortable with. Like, we have to allow ourselves to be uncomfortable and have these conversations with our children. Because believe it or not, a lot of us had suicidal ideations growing up, but we were never able to say anything about it, because if you were depressed, our parents would be like, depress them damn dishes. So now our children are going through the same thing, and we're like, well, your bullying is not real because it's not in person. They're still committing suicide.
It's even worse.
So we need to be able to have these conversations. And I'm telling you, and I know that you see this as well, like you just said, the bullying is worse because I don't have to see you. I can get bullied by somebody in South Africa, and I can't do anything about it. I can't go there to fight them. Like, because back when we were growing up, we can be like, okay, well, let's fight. But now they can say all kinds of stuff. They can dox you. They can have police come to your house. We wasn't doing anything like that. Like, we don't even know what that feels like for a person to show your address online, to show everything about you online, and then call in a threat and police pull up to your house, because you got doxxed. So it's different. So, and suicide is still happening. It's increasing. Why is it increasing? Why is it increasing with us but decreasing with other populations? Because we're not allowing ourselves to have emotions. So we need to be, as parents, we need to have those difficult conversations, and it don't even be difficult for the child. It'd be more difficult for us to have a conversation with our children about their emotions and be able to say, you know what, I validate that. I don't understand it, and I may not even agree, but I validate that it is something that you're dealing with, and I'm going to love you despite that. Because I'm telling you, when you tell children that how they're feeling about something is wrong, if that is not gaslighting, what is? And we know gaslighting is strong with parents. Like, parents are the worst when it comes to gaslighting because we just don't understand certain things. And I'm not saying that other parents, I'm talking about me too. I'm pretty sure unknowingly gaslit my children because they're thinking about something. I'm like, well, that's not serious to me, so get over it. Or you just tripping. You crazy. We do it all the time. We gaslight our children all the time. So for me, a healthy, parent-child relationship is getting rid of gaslighting, getting rid of all those things that make us uncomfortable, and have those conversations. Yeah, they're going to be difficult. They're going to be uncomfortable, but I'm telling you, it's beneficial for the child.
Man, we're getting close to the end, so I got one more question for you. What would you say to a man who knows something needs to change, but doesn't know where to start?
Start looking. There is for every man, there is a starting point. Even if it's not a men's mental health group, there is a starting point. If you know that you need to change mentally, start searching things out. Start going to the gym. And I'm not saying that the gym is a replacement for therapy, but you have psychology today. You can start finding these things. These things are available right now. Like, it's not hidden like it was back in the 80s and 90s. Like, people are going to therapy. People are pushing therapy. Even the people, the celebrities are starting to push therapy now. People that are in football are starting to push therapy. People that are in all these sports are starting to push therapy now. So there's a starting point. And if you're listening now, and this may be your starting point, start looking for those men mental groups and go participate. And if the first one is not suited for you, don't give up. Because I'll say this, I'll be the first to say this, that the way that I do our men's mental health group, it might not be suitable for everybody else. It just may not be. But still, go find what's suitable for you. But just don't give up. Don't think that, you came to our group and it wasn't for you, that's the end all be all. Keep going. Go to therapy, man. Men, go to therapy. There's nothing wrong with going to therapy. It will benefit your family.
So what if somebody listening wants to connect with you? They want you to do therapy with them. How could they go about doing that?
My website is hmcounselor.com. You can get in contact with me at heath@hmcounselor.com. If you prefer that one-on-one thing, that's the way to do it. If you're wanting that group thing, the men's mental health thing is every first Saturday at Highland Mall. And people that lived here for a while, it's by where they used to do the pictures and have the buttons. So if you're familiar with what Highland Mall used to be, it's where they used to do the buttons. And I think people would know where that's at. We're there every first Saturday of the month at 10 o'clock. It's from 10 to 11:30. We have food. We have great conversations. People stay extra to keep talking those conversations, to the point that I have to be like, okay, everybody got to go because they need this spot. So it's out there. You have your thing, like Men and Me it has a lot of things. So you can go on their website. It's a lot of things out there. You just have to want it. Want it as bad as you want everything else. Like when men are trying to get into women's relationships, they go all out trying to make that happen. Do the same thing for your mental health. Have that same tenacity. Have that same determination that you had to be the best football player. Have that same tenacity to be the best person for your mental health.
Heath Muhammad, man, I thank you so much for coming on Message to Movement, Winning at Being You. Man, you shared such valuable wisdom. And so, again, I appreciate you for taking time to join us.
I appreciate what you're doing. And because giving this spotlight to different people and getting this information out is a beautiful thing, man. It's necessary, because where else are they getting it right now? Hopefully in 20 years, this will be just like a thing that everybody does. But right now, we're laying the groundwork, and I'm happy to be a part of laying the groundwork for men to start going to therapy. And again, thank you for allowing me to even come on here. It means a lot to me.
That's a wrap, folks. Until next time, change happens one person at a time, 1 second at a time. Let's go.
Let's get it.